We have 3 4-offs, we have 1 3-off, and 2 2-offs, and the rest are 21 single cards. This is Spaulding here, and welcome to my IDC winning deck profile. First of all, I'm happy that I can show you finally a mid-range deck which won a tournament, and it's GRUB Midrange. First off, I will talk a bit about the deck name, about the strategy, what this deck wants to do, and of course their core cards. And I will not go through 21 singleton cards one by one. I think there are a bunch of staples which I can just skip over and just point out the more extraordinary cards here. And we will get to a maybe board which cards you could include in the deck. So yeah, let's start with the deck name. I think the most easiest way to call the deck is GRUB Midrange. GRUB, of course, standing for the color scheme in green, red, blue, and black. This terminology is, I think, originated from Magic the Gathering, but in my opinion, this deck name don't really count on the fact that we have so many one-offs here. So yeah, if you guys play Magic, or some of you do, or maybe even other card games, there are really strange deck names out there. For example, we have like a check pile in Magic, where just a bunch of check players playing the deck, and so yeah, you call it a check pile, of course, and everyone knows what you mean when you call, I'm playing check pile. Yeah, sure. Or also a deck called Team America, which is not a deck by Americans, but it's a deck by Europeans, which play cards with who players out of America don't play, and won tournaments with it. And just to mock the Americans, they called the deck Team America. So yeah, pretty funny stuff here. And I also thought about the deck name here, and came up with with 2 names which I want to present you. First of all, it's GRUB Midrange. So if you combine these, it's like Grange, which sounds like strange. So you can call it a strange pile. I don't know. Or maybe it's a 4-color toolbox deck. So you could call it 4-box, like written like 4-box, but 4-box. Yeah. You know, I'm not that creative of a man, so maybe you guys have some original deck names here, and you can write it in the comments down below. But enough with the chit chat. Let's start with the deck profile and with the strategy of the deck. So, as I said from the beginning, it's a mid-range deck. So what you want to do is you usually want to play aggro against slower decks, which are control, and you usually want to play aggro control against faster decks, which are aggro. Which is of course not always the case, but in general a rule of thumb. And another thing mid-range decks have going for them are value cards. They usually play a really high amount of cards which at least go 2 for 1, and that's what you want to do here. So we don't need cards like Terror Pit. Terror Pit is usually only a 1 for 1, and you'd rather have like an Aqua Surfer in the shields rather than Terror Pit, and you don't want to hard cast Terror Pit. So that's why we don't play like a pure 1 for 1 card here in the deck. So let's get this like somewhere over here, get them out. Yeah, so the core of the deck are basically these cards here, except the Quixotic. I will put them a bit to the side here. And you could also argue that you would want to have like 3 Locomotiver Gigabolza effects. Now you might say, oh, you could play like 3 Gigabolza. You are pumping up the numbers of your singleton cards by exchanging like 1 Gigabolza for 1 Locomotiver, but it has a reason. And first of all, you don't have like any race synergy, so it doesn't really matter if it's a Hedron or a Chimera. And Second of all, there are decks which play Petrova and which play Darkness. Most prominently the Hydro Hurricane deck, and sometimes these players play Giga Balsa and sometimes these players play Locomotiva. And you of course want to match the opponent's race, because there are some cases, they are rare. I think like 95% of the time Petrova calls just Guardian, but there are some rare cases in which Petrova calls Hedron or Chimera, and you want to match the opponent's race, so that's why we split it. Yeah, this is the core, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think these cards are like the backbone of midrange. Brotham Tribe, arguably the second best card in the entire game. It's played in aggro, it's played in midrange, it's played in control. Aqua Surfer, again, you might say you only need like 3 for the core, and only the 4th if you face like an aggro heavy metagame. But even if you have like a control heavy metagame, there are always some Fire Nature Rush people running around capitalizing on the fact that maybe the opponent's decks are teched out to face the control mirrors and they can just run through. So I think either way you always want 4 Aqua Surfer, which is just the best shield trigger in the stack, maybe even in the game. In my first version I played 4 Miraculous Rebirth, but I came to the conclusion that 4 is a bit too overkill. It's a really nice high value card, and that's also why we play so much singleton cards, because you always want to have like the one silver bullet in your deck which you can search out with Miraculous Rebirth. But I think 4 is just it's just too much, so I cut 1 in my final version. And of course, since it's a 4-color deck, you need some darkness cards, and Miraculous and Giga Balsa and Locomotiva definitely fit the spot here. Again, not going to talk anymore about like the staple cards. The idea of the deck basically came from GRUB Midrange. I wanted to make GRUB Midrange great again, so I thought, what should make it better? Well, just some mana acceleration. So it's basically a sort of GRUB Midrange deck with Brotham Tribe. If you wish, you can yeah, nail me down on that, because the basic idea at first was to turbo out the Ice Vapor. So at the start I played 3 Ice Vapors, which should be the next card here. Yes, I played 3 Ice Vapors at the beginning. Let's put them over here. But yeah, I just realized that 3 is too much. So I quickly cut 1 from the deck. Let's put them here. And you can argue that you can run 2, because it's just a really good card against control. But again, you are running 3 Miraculous Rebirth, and control has some nice 5-cost targets, which are either the Misrias, Skysword, Farliga. So we'll most of the time have not only 1 Ice Vapor, but 4 Ice Vapors. So I also cut the second one. But that was like the starting idea here. Yeah, getting back to the Quixotic which are out here. I realized you want to have like some 2-drops in the deck. Again, 2-drops are not the most valuable cards, and I think this is like the only card which doesn't have the potential to go like 1 for 3, 4, 5, whatever. But you need this card as a rebirth target, which came up like in the semi-final, which I really needed to have a 2-drop in the deck, otherwise I would have lost the game. It was like opponents having Balex and Rebirth into Quixotic, swapping Quixotic out for Bazagaziel and going for game. And also it's really nice offensive card, which you either attack with, of course, or you can protect yourself against Fire Nature Rush. And at first, in my first version, I played 2 Bloody Skeeter instead of Quixotic. Maybe it's even a budget version for you if you don't have Quixotic or have it built in another deck, so you can play Bloody Skeeter. But I think Quixotic is just so much better than Skeeter because of 2 reasons. First of all, if you play against Fire Nature Rush or even like maybe rock aggro. There is blocker removal in the deck in like Command Missile and Windax, for example, and Quixotic dodges it. And second of all, even if you play Bloody Skeeto in mana, your opponent can always swap out one of your attacking creatures for your Bloody Skeeto, especially in a control matchup, and then you just sit there with a blocker which doesn't do anything. So I pretty much wanted to play 0 blockers in the deck. So yeah, let's continue. We have Pyrofighter Magnus here, so these next cards here are sorted by mana cost, so we can go from the 3 drops to 4 and so on till the 8 mana creatures. Pyrofighter Magnus, again, really nice target to get off Miraculous Rebirth, and to pressure to your opponent, he needs to have like discard or like a blocker which has an attack stat of 3k or higher to stop this card. Otherwise, he keeps coming back, breaking more and more shields the longer the cards gets unanswered. Yeah, pretty standard. We have one soul swap here. The one soul swap was originally not in the deck because you don't play that many like high value cards which you want to swap out. And also, if you are swapping out something, you are losing an attack, which is pretty valuable in this deck here. And like swapping out Browsam Tribe for Locomotiver just to discard like a card from your opponent. So this card basically reads discard one card at random from your opponent and lose one attack, which is not great. And you don't have that many like high value creatures like Fortress Shell, for example, or like Phobos, for example, or Sky Sword, which give you a huge amount of value. Yeah, so that's why originally I had 0 copies, but then I swapped out 1 Rebirth for the Soul Swap. And because I made some other changes in the higher mana cost cards, which we'll get to later, so the Soul Swap is worth more in the deck than it was before. One Trixo. So I think this is a card we need to talk about. I was basically looking for an answer to Alzonius and was looking through the database which creatures or spells make your opponent sacrifice a creature. And this guy came up. And if this card is unanswered, it destroys one creature after another every turn, while also breaking a shield, which is pretty important. As I said, in the deck, your win condition is of course attacking, and most of the time even attacking early on. So a creature which destroys other creatures while simultaneously attacking shields is really great here. But of course only playing a one-off, since we don't like hard draw like more than one in any situation, which is like truth for most of the singleton cards here, but you want to have a nice target for your Miraculous Rebirth on Trixo. Next card, Trash Caller, the only blocker in the deck, which gives value when it's summoned, of course, and yeah, pretty stable card. One Volcano Charger. I thought about playing 2 of them because it's just really nice to curve Volcano Charger into Rebirth, but I couldn't find room for more. But I would definitely play like 2 instead of 1. One Morbid Medicine, again, playing it over Corpse Charger. Corpse Charger again is only a 1-for-1. I mean, yeah, you get the mana charge, which is true for Volcano Charger also. But you can't really play it on turn 4. You won't have like any creatures in your graveyard most of the time, and that's the probability that your opponent is having like a creature like Browsam Tribe by turn 4 is higher than you having a creature in your graveyard. So that's why I opted for the 2-for-1 here. Also going by the theme in the 2-for-1 thing. Next up we have Cowell, which came up in the final. I think this video gets uploaded after the final gets uploaded, so I hold the Cowell in hand there, while I could have played it out, but yeah, I was hoping that my opponent would play a creature which won't do anything just to pressure me, which he did at last. But yeah, let's not talk about like the final. Let's talk about Cowell. I think it's the mid-range card itself. I think if you see Cowell in deck, you can pretty much assume that it's mid-range. But again, only a one-off. It's a really, really, really good card, but not like broken. So you would play like 3-4 copies of it. It's situational because when your opponent is having like a Sky Sword on field, you don't want to bounce it. If he has like a Forbos or a Fal on field, you don't want to bounce it. But when it's good, it's really, really good. And these are also a theme here that maybe these cards are situational. Sometimes when they came up, they are so much value. So next up, Photosite, Lord of the Wastes, which came in really clutch. This card overperformed. It was really, really nice against Wave Striker, killing multiple creatures, going like 1-4-5 or something, killing Merely, killing Azra, killing tapped Sapient Targs. This card came, of course, up against Hydro Hurricane, killing pretty much the entire board. Originally, also, I put this card in the deck because there are so many light decks running around in the meta game. Either like destroying some Sky Swap to prevent like an endless amount of Sky Swapping, destroying Fals, destroying Forbos. Again, against Alziona's pretty good card, so it's an easy one-off here in the deck. Garlak, again, 5-drop creature, so I opted to play like 4 or 5 cards per in the 5 mana, in the 4 mana, 3 mana, and so on. So we have so that we all like almost always have a target for Miraculous Rebirth. And Garlak, again, really nice against Hydro Hurricane. There's a I think there was a situation where I played Miraculous Rebirth on opponent's Misrias while he had Balix on board. So Miraculous Rebirth was like a 1-for-4, like destroying a creature is 1, getting your own creature is 2, destroying the opponent's blocker is 3, and discarding card is 4. So yeah, really good card here, and again fixing your mana count to manage like 4 colors and 40 cards. Rumbling Terrorhorn, again in the toolbox deck, really good. In my first version I played 2 copies of Terrorhorn, and I would definitely play it again, but I just don't have room for it. Searing Wave, which I thought about exchanging for like a second Volcano Charger, but again this card overperformed in the tournament, destroying like 2 Wave Strikers, destroying 2 Essence Elves, even destroying like a single card which was needed in a point where I had 0 shields. Really nice to curve like the Brosam Tribe into the Searing Wave. Jagalzor, again, pressuring your opponent here if unanswered. Again, Rebirth on Forbos for Jagalzor, or Rebirth on Surfer into Jagalzor is can be game winning. Of course, I think there was a situation in the final where your opponent had 0 shields and this card was basically a 6 mana 6k vanilla. But I think most of the time this card is just like a 6 mana speed attacker, which also gives the creatures that you play next turn speed attacker. So your opponent needs to answer this card. And the same goes for the next card in Cryptic Totem. Your opponent has to answer it. Otherwise, you can like Cryptic Totem, and you usually will have like 2-3 more creatures on board since you place so many like value cards in Hulkus and Brosam Tribe and Locomotive and so on. And of course the combo in like Jagalzor and Cryptic Totem on 1 turn is pretty nice when having like a soul swap. So if you have like Jagalzor in hand, Cryptic Totem in hand or in mana, Jagalzor in hand on mana, and then soul swap, you can like basically pay 8 mana to get both of these out. And if you have a creature on board which can attack, these are like 5 shields. and your opponent can't use the shield trigger ability only on the first one, which can be a huge blowout in one turn. Of course, these are all one-offs, and I think this situation didn't come up at all, but in theory it's nice. And I wanted to have like another finisher card. This was basically the Terrorhorn spot. But again, I wanted to have a creature which can end the game when unanswered. Next blowout card, Miraculous Meltdown, won me like 1 or 2 games. Yeah, basic stuff. And then there's this card. I think every time I played it, the people who were in the chat just went wild, which made me pretty happy, to be honest. This card was also last edition. I played Unicorn Fish in this spot before. Again, the idea behind Unicorn Fish is having like a rebirth target and also like stifling your opponent's aggro plans, but most of the time Unicorn Fish was just not good enough, to be honest. Even if you played it, you had like a 1k beatstick which couldn't really kill anything, so it wasn't worth. And I searched for a more valuable card because I added Soul Swap, and this is what I came up with, and it really paid off. I even hardcast this card like in 2 games, which basically drew me into more valuable cards and just roll over the opponent. Then 1 Epoch, 1 Lost Soul. This 1 Lost Soul was originally a Gajira boot. Gajira boot really nice against Emerald decks or trigger heavy decks. When your opponent is like suicide attacking because they rely on their last Holy Ore in the shield, which they knew is there when they set it with Emerald, and you can just blow them out with Gajira boot, which came up in the testing, but ultimately I decided for just even more blowout card in Lost Soul, which definitely paid off because, as I said, against control you want to attack early, and then your opponents will have like 3, 4 cards, 5 cards in hand, and then you can just follow it up with a Lost Soul. And then for the last 2 cards, yeah, we have an Arc and we have a Berserker Seal, which are also pretty good, pretty standard, I would say. So yeah, these are the cards in the deck. Let's just quickly run over some maybe cards which you can include. There's also Emerald. I would definitely advise you to run like some 2-drops for your Miraculous Rebirth, but I think Quixotic is just better. In Emerald, I think in theory is of course nice. You're playing Rebirth on a 2-drop, playing Emerald and getting its effect, but most of the time you want to charge your Aqua Surfers in mana, and you don't really want to hold an Aqua Surfer back, charge like a Hulkus to play an Emerald to get the Surfer in your shields. I think it of course could come up, but as I said, you want to go for the more valuable cards, and 2-drops are not like the most important thing in the deck. And yeah, even if you like don't have Emerald in hand, you could draw it, so you maybe would want to hold back the Surfer, which it's just not really a game plan I would go for, but you could definitely play it. Rotos is another card. Again, the idea here is, for example, against Alzonius, destroying a Magress while opponent is having Alzonius out. Destroying Magress, playing Rotos, destroying the Alzonius, for example. But again, on its own, Trixo was just has just a higher upside than Rotos, so I opted for like not like the better card in general, but I think in overall the card with a more blowout potential. Galgaf Dragon you can play, of course you don't have any light cards, so it's pretty good here. And then some like random stuff which you see also in like mid-range decks. The second Volcano, which I talked about earlier. I would definitely turn away from Bolmedius here. Maybe you could play 1 instead of the Cryptic Totem, but I think in this state the Cryptic Totem is just a better finisher instead of Bolmedius. And again, Corpse Charger, I talked about this earlier, compared to the more it medicine. So yeah, this is the deck. The deck and some maybe cards, some cards I wouldn't play, some cards I would maybe play. And if you have like any questions, join us on Discord. Ask them in the comments down below. And yeah, I wish you a great day. I invite you to copy this deck. I invite you to bring your own spice to the deck. Maybe you will even find some cards which I didn't mention before. Would be glad if you would report to me if it pays off, so I can test it myself. Yeah, have a nice day. Leave a like, leave a comment down below, and see you.